Hello there. In this video, we're going to look at how to create and change and do cool stuff with legends when you have a Deneb visualization. Legends obviously are a pretty basic thing, but because of the flexibility of Deneb, you can do a lot with them. And also there are a couple of things that you kind of should do to make the legend work as you would expect from a legend. So, don't want to talk too much. Let's get straight into it and see what I'm talking about. So this is my Deneb visualization right here. And what I want to do is, as I say, create a legend. So I'm going to go and I'm going to edit. So this is my bar chart. As ever, if you don't know what anything is here, refer to my previous videos and they will tell you how to get here. What we're going to do is take it from this pretty standard bar chart and we're going to add a legend. So the first thing I need to do is choose a field to use like as a category. So we have that legend. Luckily, I have a field which is called category and I can just bring that in. So now I've added my category. What I need to do is say what I want to do with that category. And so if I say, for example, now I want to say the color needs to be controlled by the field that I just added. So I'm going to say field, and the field I'm going to use is category, close that off. And as soon as I do that, you'll see I have what I wanted. I have my legend. So to create a legend is really easy because as soon as I say the color is defined by a field, it automatically creates that legend. But having a legend and being able to use that legend effectively are very different things. And before I add the functionality to use the legend, I want to show you how you can really make that legend look exactly how you want it to look. So there's lots of documentation about the legend and it's really easy to find. What you got to do is go, as ever, to the Vega Lite website and you just look for the word legend. And when you do, you will see that it will really guide you through. There's a lot you can do, all these different fields. So I'll link this in the video description. Have a look through. I'm going to take you through some of the things that I find most helpful. And so you can get an idea of how you can make that legend look. So you'll see that right here in the specification, there's nothing that really describes the legend. And you can put stuff here if you want. So I could say color, and then I could start specifying. I could say, for example, a really basic one is to say legend is null, which would get rid of my legend. But I don't want to do that. But most of the information you'll find, which is currently defining the legend, is actually here in config. And the config is full of information that will basically automatically set every single element in a Deneb visualization. Now, if you want to see how it looks without all that config, it's really easy. You can just delete it all. I'll apply that change and you can see straight away what's happened. You know, you've got your axis lines, the font has changed, the font size has changed. So that's defining actually quite a lot within this visualization. But if we go down to the very bottom, you can see that's where the legend information is specified. You've got your font weight. So if I just start to change one or two things. So for example, title font weight is currently bold. Usually I'll use the numeric values rather than bold. So if I say, for example, font weight is 200, you'll see that title font weight is now not as bold. It's quite transparent, it's quite small. And now if I'm going to change that to say something like 800, it is, I think, even more bold than it was before. I can also specify here, and I can just say title null. And now the title's gone, which I actually prefer. I mean, each to their own, but I don't think we really need the title there because it's pretty straightforward and pretty obvious. But again, if you wanted it, you could keep it there. I'm going to switch mine off. That's up to you. Other things. So for example, you'll see that the symbol size is set to 75. You might want something a bit bigger than that, which is good for, visibility, accessibility issues. So I made that 200. And the symbol type, by default, I think actually is set to square. So if I remove that line, you'll see now it's square. I put it back in, it's circle. But let's just say square for the sake of it. And we'll come back to this shape later. But let's just keep that square for now. I also prefer to move my legend from the right. Really easy to do. You can just type the word orient and then specify where you want it. And if you go top, for example, it's going to put that on the top left. You could also say I want it on the left-hand side, and it'll do that for you. And the bottom. Again, this is all in the documentation, and it's there. So loads of options. I like it. Also, if you wanted to, you could say how many columns there are, which is really helpful if you have lots of different categories. But I just want to say column. And if I said, for example, columns, I think it is, not column. Columns. Exactly. Columns, 1 column. Or, 2, you get the point. So you probably noticed before that when I was specifying to put this in different places, so bottom, it's automatically done that way. If I then say left, it automatically gives me 1 column. If I wanted to, I could also say I want to have on the left-hand side but 3 columns, and then it forces it to be precisely how I want it to be. If you want to do it, it's there. It can be done. But I'm going to go back to top where I like it, and I don't need this columns 3, but I'm going to keep it there anyway, just so you can still refer to it if you want to have a look at what I'm doing. Other stuff. So for example, the label font size, this ABC, it's set to this kind of really long number there. I can also make it large, again, as big as I want really. Let's try something very big, 25. Now you can see I have this huge font, and then let's make that really a lot bigger to kind of suit it. And there you go. In fact, let's just make it really big for this video because we are talking about legend. So there we go. Huge legend. Like it. Very nice. So what I can also do is I can change my stroke width. So if I go, for example, symbol, and then I believe stroke width, and I say 2, now you'll see that the stroke gets bigger and bigger. Let's make it 4 so it really stands out, you see. So now I have this really bold stroke around each of my legend points there. So, it's a bit excessive, but let's just keep it that way because, as I say, in this video we're talking about legends, so let's make them really stand out. The point is, you can make them look very different by changing the settings in stroke down there. So now what I want to do, though, is add some functionality. And that's an important part because you'll be used to when you use your standard Power BI visualizations that you click on a legend and it automatically highlights what you've clicked on. You don't get that out of the box with a Deneb legend. You have to do that yourself. Now, the drawback is it's a bit of extra code. A cool part is actually you can do more with it. Yeah, so yes, it's unfortunate you have to code that, but this is Deneb, you're going to do your coding anyway. And let's see the benefit of that as well. So how do we make it that the legend filters the visualization itself? What we want to do before we get into our layer, we want to create a parameter. So I'm going to start with params, and then I need a square bracket. And then inside that square bracket, what I want to do is curly bracket and then give it a name. And the name I'm going to give it is just going to be category because it's the field that I use. So category. And then I'm saying select. Nope, not selected like that. Sorry. Select. Another curly bracket. Type. Point. And then I need to link it to a field. Fields. another square bracket. So this is what I'm saying. It's a little bit of typing. It's not an insignificant amount, but you can do cool stuff with it. So let's bear with me. I'm almost done. And then what I want to do is then specify to bind it. So bind to the legend. Now I've definitely made a mistake here. That's why I'm getting that error. So now I've got to work out what mistake have I made. Oh, here I think I've got one extra curly bracket that I do not need. That isn't even it, and that may be cool. There you go. So what have I done? Let's clean that up a little bit. I've created a parameter. I've named the parameter, and I've said the name of the parameter is category. Select type point, field category, which is the field I want to use for my legend. Bind it to legend. So now I've done that. Let's see what happens when I click on the legend. Okay, so it's a decent start because you can see I'm clicking on the legend and it's highlighting the legend, but nothing's happening here. So the next thing I have to do is select the level of opacity when I click on that. Now, this troubled me at first because here I've already set opacity. But I need to do that again. And very quick bit of research, it was nice and easy to work out what I had to do. So what I'm going to do, first of all, is like my favorite thing to do, and it's copy and paste. So I'm going to take this opacity here, and I'm going to paste it there. So now this opacity is going to be this that I just clicked on. This kind of the cross-filtering opacity. And this one here, that's going to be the opacity I'm going to use for my legend. So I do need to change it a little bit. Things I need to do include, now when it says opacity condition test, what I want to do is I want to say, now not opacity, but rather fill opacity. So fill opacity, not opacity. I'll get the difference quite soon. Fill opacity. My condition is now no longer test, it's just condition. So condition is not field, but it's param, the parameter that I set, and category, because I call the parameter category. And I do not want equal off anymore. Nope. So those couple of changes that I made were to ensure that now it's fill opacity. The condition is based on the parameter which we created before, value 0.3 or 1. And I'm going to switch those around now, and I'm going to say 0.1. Apply that change, prepare and format. So now what's going to happen if I've done it correctly? Which is a big if most of the time. Haha. See? Now what's happening is, because of this new fill opacity based on my parameter, if I've selected the category, the value of the opacity is 1. If I haven't, it's 0.1. And that's how it works. Now, the reason I said I was going to come back to this fill opacity, is because the opacity is just quite a generic thing. So this opacity that we use here, as you can see, it just specifies all opacity. I didn't realize until I started looking at this, you have fill opacity, you have also stroke opacity, which is very cool because, again, favorite thing, bit of a copy, bit of a paste. I'm now going to change this to stroke opacity. And what I will do, just to make it a bit clearer maybe, is make this a nice big thick stroke. Now you see these big strokes. Now I click around. You can see that this stroke opacity, where it is here, is controlling the stroke. So if I were to just, first of all, get rid of this, what you could see when I click here is that the stroke is not becoming in any way transparent. It's set to my original really big thick stroke 3. So if I put my stroke opacity now back in and I click on it, you'll see that also I have my stroke opacity. So you can specify both, which is quite cool because you're adding another element of flexibility. So for example, if I had a normal stroke width, not 3, that's pretty excessive. If I have something like this, yeah, what I could do, I could say, give that a higher number, so you still kind of like have this line around. So if I wanted to, I could also say my fill opacity is 0. So the color goes completely. However, you can still see where it used to be because my stroke opacity allows me to have like the outline of where the other values are, which is really cool. And it makes me think about other things I could potentially do with stroke and fill opacity, which I'm not going to get into in this video. This is just about legend. So that's really how you create a functional legend in Deneb. And also how using a config, you can really change a lot of the elements, such as, you know, where it is in the visualization, left, right, the size of it, all these things which actually I think are quite important because you can really make things stand out a lot more. Another thing you can do, now this is silly, I understand, but it's nothing wrong having a bit of silliness. Currently, we have symbol shape. Symbol type, it says there. You can also, if you want to, this is silly, use SVG paths. So I've covered SVG paths before. Simply, it's encoding an SVG, so you can basically put in any shape you want for which you have an SVG path, which is totally cool. So what I'm about to do now is extremely silly, but I'm going to replace what I just had there, which was square, and put in this huge SVG path. I want to change the size because you have to do that with SVG, make it tiny. Apply my change. And now you see I have an SVG path and I have hippos for my data labels. I'm going to remove this stroke width 4 and put in like 0.5. And now I have some pretty cool looking hippos for my legend. Does it have to be a hippo? No. It can be whatever you want, of course, but hippos made me laugh. So there they are for you too. And of course, you can still click on the hippos. Yay. Very silly, I know, but you can do it. So SVG path to make your shape of your legend whatever you want it to be. Is that very silly? Yes. Is there a need for it? At some point, probably also yes. Might it be a hippo? I don't know. That would be cool. But that's how you do it. And yeah, so this was meant to be a really brief intro as to how to do legends. You can do a lot with them, but the basic functionality is always going to be the same. It's to display categories and it's to click on when you're actually using your visualization. So now, if I want to say C, I have that, B, A. Simple things, important things, but with Deneb, as ever, flexible things. So, hope that helped. Let me know if you like it. Let me know if you didn't like it. Let me know if you do something differently, have better ideas. Thank you very much. Like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And I shall see you with another video, hopefully quite soon. Goodbye.